All right, so we should be live on YouTube publicly. We'll see if anybody's hopping in here.
All right.
And I see two watching now. I'm one of
Woohoo.
them.
Okay.
So if if there's anyone else watching out there, we would love to see you. So we're going to get started with our conversation in just a little bit, but we want to give a moment for anybody who wanted to hop in. So by the way, my name is Pastor Peter. I've got with me via Zoom Nia Cortez. So
I like waving.
So by the way, if you're watching, I'm going to ask some questions. We've got Nia here, and she's going to share with us as well. But we would love if you have any questions. Feel free to go ahead and you can send those in the comments. I'll be checking the comments right here live, and we can answer questions, or we would just love to actually interact with you and talk with you guys. And don't forget too, this is YouTube, and so we've got a whole bunch of good content on our channel. The best way to know what is new and coming up is to go ahead and click the subscribe button underneath. And the last thing I would say is this is going to be on YouTube forever, for all time that YouTube is there. But right now you can actually click the share button and copy that link and maybe send it to somebody you know that is dealing with stress right now, or you feel like this conversation would be relevant to them. So I see Willa Turner's already joined us. Good evening, Willa. We're glad that you are here. So my name is Pastor Peter. I'm a pastor at Calvary Church in Naperville, and tonight I have an awesome guest, my friend Nia Cortez here. Nia is a licensed clinical social worker. I had to write this down. Nia is a licensed clinical social worker, and she works for Northwestern Medicine, CDH, where our
Mm.
daughter was born. But
Oh.
she's a behavioral in a behavioral health program as a behavioral health counselor. So,
Mhm.
Nia, would you go ahead and kind of give a little bit of introduction of who you are, what you do professionally, but then also your relationship with Calvary Church and kind of your involvement there as well?
Yeah, for sure. Just first want to thank you for having me on here. I'm really excited about this and to, just share what just my experiences has been with stress and hopefully, just planting seeds to help everyone out. But yeah, so I am a behavioral health counselor and my role is I teach a lot of education, it's coping skills and just how to live, how to do your life, right? To adults and adolescents in what's called a partial hospitalization program. And so it's a full day thing where they're there from 9 to 4 and they're in various education groups and just learning how to think differently and to work on being more self-aware of their depression, the anxiety, bipolar. I work with adults and adolescents, so I'm working with the teens too, just teaching them how to live a healthier life. So
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, and with church, I've been with Calvary, I think, for almost 4 years now. I don't know. I feel like time just flies when you're at church. But I was working with the youth at some point, so I was working with Peter, and so shout out to my youth group that was out there and stuff. So I miss you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. And I'm part of the worship team as well at Calvary West. So I'm pretty involved, and I miss everyone. So yeah.
We miss you too, Nia. So yeah, Nia is she was an incredible worship leader with the youth, and she still is an incredible worship leader. And Nia has just always been that person that I've known when I've just always been able to count on her. And so and I also just really respect her as a woman and as a woman of God.
Thanks,
Um,
Peter.
but Nia, we're talking about the theme tonight is how to stay calm in a stressed out world.
Mm.
Um, would you describe yourself more as a stressed person or as a calm person?
So, well, and I know my people out there who have done psychology will kind of kick out of this. It depends. So you got to think about, well, it depends on the situation. When I'm at work, I can handle stressful situations because it's my job. I have to be, if I'm handling crises and stuff. When it's, I can't find my keys, it's a different story. You kind of freak out, have your moment, and you're able to kind of just collect yourself and stuff. So I think for me it depends, but if it's a life threatening situation or just the fact that I can't find my keys, I'm pretty good at like having like, okay, I'm freaking out, but really quickly to diffuse that and to kind of go into action mode and to kind of take the pressure and stuff. So I feel like that's kind of how I handle stuff sometimes. So
Yeah, no, I don't know. I guess I'm the same way. So I'm either
hmm
calm
hmm
or stressed. So
yeah.
you also witnessed as we were testing this earlier, and my daughter was with me, that may have been a little bit more of a stressful
You're
situation
handling
for
it
me.
very well. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, yeah. So
hmm
it's I guess it's easy because I love her, but also not. So
hmm
and I also want to say, hopping into this conversation, I mean, we would be foolish to not realize that there are some like current events happening just this week, what's
hmm
going on in Minneapolis, that it is crazy, and there are some insane stresses happening right now, that are real and legitimate, and some people are incredibly stressed about it, and some people maybe need to be more stressed about it. Um, and so if you have questions about anything, this is a conversation for that. But just so you know, us coming into this conversation about stress was kind of talked about before these current events, and so that's not what we're leaning into, even though that is an incredibly important conversation. So but we're
hmm
talking about stress, and there's a pandemic happening right now.
Oh, really?
We're Yeah, if you haven't heard,
Hmm.
um and there's so much going on right now,
Hmm.
but stress isn't new to this pandemic. And so
Yeah.
when it comes to getting stressed, what are some sort of triggers or patterns or common
hmm
causes, that maybe we can kind of look out for and see? Because I
hmm
know everybody's got like, oh, I know it's stressful, school's
Yeah.
stressful, my job
Yeah.
is stressful,
hmm
but maybe some broader categories of these are the sort of things that are going to cause good stress, bad stress, whatever.
For sure. Yeah. And I think the question I would ask people who are watching is, how self-aware are you about, what stresses you out? Are you someone who is more of a thinker, you plan things, you react based on facts, or are you someone who is more emotional, where you just kind of act impulsively, you feel very strongly, you word vomit, or you a closed book, right? So you got to remember and understand how, yourself, what's your self-awareness when it comes to understanding how, how you get stressed out, right? When we talk about triggers, we have to remember that triggers are a reminder of a past trauma, and as adults we typically become triggered by past experiences that are reminiscent of old painful feelings. So what happens is then we turn to habitual or addictive ways of trying to manage these painful emotions, because I mean, who wants to feel shame and be like, oh, I'm feeling shame right now, this is awesome? No, I mean, when you are feeling shame, guilt, when you feel as though you're being threatened, or there's anger, or whatever it is, you react naturally, because of that's just how you what you use to survive the pain. And so I think the question is, once you become more self-aware of what triggers you, you can consider the origin of them, and then you can start working on them. So a lot of times you got to think about, physically, emotionally, behaviorally, and how you think. Because I think if you start to break those downs, like, how do I react physically? What, emotionally, how does that come out? What does that look like inside me? Behaviorally, what do I tend to do? Do I go to the freezer and eat everything, the ice cream, Ben and Jerry's calling my name? Like, what is it that you do behaviorally? Do you sleep? Do you isolate yourself? Do you kind of put on this mask where you're just like, everything's okay, but inside you're dying inside? I mean, you have to really take that into consideration, and really start thinking and becoming self-aware of when these triggers are popping up. Because not, I see this all the time, where you go from 0 to 10, but and you react, but in reality it's been building up, and you've been, reacting, your body's reacting to that, you're behaviorally reacting to that. But the one thing that tops it off and you explode and kind of sets you back, and you say things you don't mean to say, or you just explode, that gets people into trouble. So if you could become aware of this, then you can work on managing it. I mean, you're not going to be 100% perfect. We're human, right? I mean, it's just, but I think we need to start building the self-awareness of, okay, so this is, my mid-range of, this is what I, feel like. I start getting annoyed, I start getting irritated, or I start coming very short with my kids, or with my husband, or with my wife, whatever. At work, I just become unapproachable. You really have to sit and think and really dig deep inside yourself to learn about yourself, to become self-aware, so you're able to catch these things quicker before you make it worse.
So it sounds like even what you're saying too is like there's always the stress at whatever age level you're at, there's always the stress that you recognize you have.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what you're saying too is that there's that stress that maybe you don't even know you're stressed yet, and it can be building up. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like it's kind of like self-awareness is that key to kind of unlocking that door to be able to see the stress that is there that you don't even know about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
and sometimes people, other people are really good indicators of trying to raise that like warning flag. Like, for instance, if someone says to you, "What's your problem?" Or, "Why are you
mm,
such why are you so moody? Like, why are you moody today? Like, why are you always in your room? Or why aren't you talking to me?" Like, those are subtle hints that you should kind of be like, "Oh, like, yeah, why am I doing that? Like, what's going on?" Where you can
yeah.
kind of stop and check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, and that's tough too. I want to answer a question. Willa Turner's got
Yeah.
a question. I want to answer a question in a second, but that's tough too because people can help us realize, oh, there's something going on in me, but that
Mm-hmm.
also it's like, ooh, that takes humility. Ooh, that's humbling. Because
Yeah.
when somebody says what's wrong with you, I want to go, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with
What's wrong with
you?
you?
But yeah, that's an encouragement
Mhm,
for sure for me to go, hey, like if somebody's calling something out in me, it might be some stress in me that I'm not even aware of.
mhm.
But when somebody's saying what's wrong with you, I might need to take that question seriously. uh, but
Yeah.
but speaking of questions, Willa Turner asks, and this is very relevant. It sounds like has to do, maybe she's got a neighbor or something that
Mm,
is definitely fearful of maybe getting sick from the pandemic. But the question is, how do I encourage my senior neighbors to come outside? They are petrified.
mhm,
So, Nia, when we're dealing with other people that have um, fears, whether we relate to them or not, what's a good way to handle that? I mean, you are day in and day out dealing with
mhm.
people who are in a different state than you are.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think one thing, as believers is and people of the church and all that good stuff, it was we have to remember to be patient, because when there's fear there and anxiety and just we feel this anxiousness, we're not really people are not really thinking right minded. They're always kind of denounce like your encouragement, like, no, but you're wrong, yeah, but, and da da da. So I think just staying patient and just keep encouraging them, try not to it's hard to when you're trying to really encourage people and then they like kind of throw things back at you or become unpleasant in a sense, and you're just like, forget it, I'm just going to give up, or are close to just saying like, well, you know what. And so I think really just keep pursuing, just the same way, Jesus keeps pursuing us when we're anxious and we don't want to believe what he's saying. And the fact that he's so patient in doing that continuously, until we get it. I think that's just one thing that we need to do, is just to keep encouraging, keep being patient, and showing that compassion and grace to just, and even praying, I think prayer is so needed right now, and just letting God do his thing and using you in that sense.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Willa, thank you for the question, and
Hmm.
to everyone there, we would love to talk with you. So maybe some things that what stresses you out, or how have you handled stress in the past, or what are some healthy ways that you've seen, or some unhealthy ways that you've
Hmm.
seen? We would love to talk with you. But Nia, when I think about kind of stress in my own life, it almost feels like it's this other person that I have a relationship with. Like
Hmm.
I can be in high stress situations, and I can be in really calm situations, but there's always a little bit of that stress in my life it's almost like a relationship with the person. Um,
Hmm.
how can we have a healthy relationship with stress in our life? And maybe what are some
Hmm.
signs of an unhealthy relationship with stress?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Good question. I think off the bat, if you're wanting to, well, first thing you got to understand is that life is going to throw curveballs at you no matter what. Just because you want life to stop, it's not going to stop. So I've seen people in seasons where it's like a hard season after a hard season after, and they're not catching a break, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you want to just start understanding that life is hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's the
That's
reality of it.
That reminds me of a Boy Meets World episode where he just said life is hard, and he hit him in the head. He's like, wear a helmet.
Boom.
So
Hello.
thanks for watching, guys. Life's hard.
There you go. And so you need to start understanding, what is it that you can control and what are the things you can't control. And when you make sense of that, of the things you can't control, then your next step is to then give it to God and trust him, and trust that he knows what he's doing with the things you can't control. We always talk about the serenity prayer of, and I know Alcohol Anonymous uses it and stuff, and it's great. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. All right. So I think we just need to start understanding that there are things that we can control and there are things we cannot control. And we need to make peace with that, because God is able to control it all. And so if we're able to be like, you know what? I'll work on me. I can control me, but I can't control this situation. So God, you deal with it. He
Yeah.
wants us to come to him with this stuff too. And I sometimes for myself, when it gets to a point where it's like I'm trying to control everything, I literally sit and I visualize, myself going to the throne of God and dumping it and be like, you know what, here, you deal with it. I can't do it anymore. I tried. I can't. I'm sorry. I was wrong. And I just, and I just let it go. So I
That's
think
good.
yeah, so I think that's what we need to start, remembering, is understanding what are the things I can control and the things I can't control. And that's going to help release a little bit of the stress that we keep holding on to.
Yeah, that's huge.
So,
Can I ask you, are there like practical ways of going about that? Like I'm a nerd, and so I'm just like, oh, okay, so we'll make a list. We'll just make
mhm,
a list of what we can control
yes.
and what we can't. But are
Hmm.
are there some kind of practical ways to do that? Because
Hmm.
I'm with you. I'm a pastor. I'm always going to go, yeah, let's trust in God.
Right.
But when it comes to kind of processing what we can control, what we can't control, are there
Hmm.
some sort of practical things of, hey, here's how you can do it. Here's step one to sort of managing your relationship with stress.
Yeah, for sure. Journaling has been something that I've done in the past, and so just really just writing things out. Um, excuse me. So if you're someone who's visual, who just needs to see it, journaling, putting it in practice. This is what I can control. This is what I can't control. Making lists. Um, for someone who is more of a thinker, they're able to do it in their heads and to like just kind of take a deep breath. They're able to maybe just kind of write so what is the truth and what is not the truth, what is possible, what is not possible. I think another thing too that people can do is do a social media detox and try that out for a little while, because I think sometimes if you're someone who has to respond to everything that's on there, that should be a signal there that may be a root issue for keeping this stress going. um
Hold
because
up,
what
we gotta say that again because I feel like there's somebody who's like watching this kind of quickly, and
hmm.
and that might be a big one because I know that for me has been something that when I kind of practice that in my own life, I go, wow, that was really good for me. But can you kind of just
Hmm.
repeat that when it comes to taking a break from social media?
Yeah, so social media detox is, you want to start breaking up with social media for a little bit and just say, you know what, I got to do me for a little while without you in my life. And I've just heard so many, like just sense of relief that there's not like this social pressure to kind of keep up to, a lot of times, everything you see online is literally fake. The way people are showing their lives, and I think this also goes out to my teens out there, especially on Instagram. I mean, there's a lot of social pressure now for them to try to keep up with what's going on, to be more materialistic and to kind of like, oh well, they have that, now I want that, or they're really having a good life, why is my life so trashy, like can't why am I good for nothing, like so, and that starts to stress people out. And so I think it's really important to consider deleting Facebook, deleting Twitter, deleting Instagram, deleting Snapchat, and using that time for, to take care of yourself. Um, a lot of times, my people pleasers out there that can't say no, the people out there who are, feel guilty for, saying no because they want to do something for themselves. You need to start working on, having boundaries with that, because how are you expected to pour into somebody if your cup is empty?
Hmm.
So I think, and because what happens is this creates a sense of avoidance. And so we don't want to start avoiding because we think avoiding is a better option. No, we got to face these things. If we want to become, better, we have to go through the fire to come out pure as gold.
Yeah, yeah. I want to get to a question here because we've got another one, and I think um, I think this question from Nora Sadler, it really hits on kind of the reality of life, of what you said, of like life keeps coming,
Mm,
and stress is real. And so this question is, when you have lost your job and are stressed about
mm.
paying your bills and etc., how do you handle that? Because it's not, we can make a T chart and that's good,
Yeah. Hmm.
but you've got the bills to pay. You've lost your job. I mean, this
Hmm.
is really, I don't know if this is something that Nora's gone through, but I know, like, uh, my dad, as I was growing up, he was losing jobs, getting jobs. He worked in the tech
Hmm.
industry, and just, you know there was a lot of companies buying and selling and all of that. So I remember as a kid, my parents handling it, I think, really well, but
Hmm.
they were experiencing that kind of stress of losing jobs, and having to worry about finances. And so what are some practical ways that we can go, yeah, we want to, if we believe in a God who wants to take care of us, we got to trust
Hmm.
God.
Yeah.
But then maybe what are some other ways we can go, we're going to have to face this practically, but then when
Hmm.
it comes to our relationship with stress, what are some things that we can do there?
Yeah, no, that's good. And that's something that's not, uncommon nowadays and everything. And I think the first thing is to just not make the situation worse, right? We have to become distress tolerant with these things. And whether it be you reach out to someone, whether it be your support system, whether it be to other, community resources, people need people. We need each other. We need to be able to help each other, whether it be reaching out to the church or just whatever it is that you need. And because we can't do it on our own, right? So many oftentimes we feel like we should be able to figure this out on our own. No, that's why there's pastors out there. That's why there's people like me out there. That's why we have our friends and family, our spiritual mentors to help us guide us through these hard times. So I think really reaching out and saying, you know what, I need help and I don't even know where to begin. And sometimes just reaching out and asking for it is going to be that first step. You just have to have the courage to, to kind of sink that pride away and ask for help, reach out. I think reaching out is going to be something that is going to be helpful, because pain is pain and
Mm.
suffering and agony is pain plus non-acceptance. So definitely reaching out. Yeah.
Okay, we just got into math, and I like equations here. Which, by the way, if you have any last questions, we'd love to take them right now, but we'll close out in a little bit. But you
Mhm.
just gave a little equation there. Can you say that again?
Yeah, so pain is pain.
Okay.
Okay. Suffering plus agony is pain plus non acceptance.
Suffering and agony
Is
is
pain
pain
plus
plus
non.
non-acceptance.
We got to
Wow.
be able to radically accept. And what that means is giving up the resistance to stay miserable and and that is something that's easy to understand but hard to do. And that's where
Hmm.
God comes in, because he can help transform our mind, body, spirit, and soul so we don't have to fight it anymore. Granted, it talks about how we will have pain. We will have that, but to add suffering and agony to it, I mean, oh my gosh, like that's you want to try to get out of that hole and stuff. So I think just understanding that pain is pain.
Yeah.
um
Wow, that's huge. And
mhm.
I, being a father of a young daughter and son, I can't help but think of them. And my daughter had like a bug bite, and it was
Oh,
itchy, and it was like it just kept hurting, and all I
mhm.
could say was like, it's gonna itch, like it's like I
Yeah.
mean, it was late at night. We didn't have time to go get some cream or whatever, but it was,
Mhm.
but I see that of like, all she had was a little bug bite, but the fact that
Mhm.
she couldn't just accept that this is going to be uncomfortable for a little while made it that
Right.
much worse. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it seems like that's where you get that, I need to know what I can control and what I can't, because
Mhm.
if this pain is just going to be here,
Mhm.
then I need to move forward in a relationship with it, in a good way, in a healthy way,
Right.
that's going to get me
Right.
past it eventually.
Mhm.
Or is this pain here and there's something I can control that can help kind of heal that pain? So
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm
I
not a
mean,
counselor, but that's
no.
kind of some of the math I'm seeing here.
Yeah, no, and people have to realize too that this is going to take time. Okay. We live in a
Mm.
society, in a world where we want quick fixes like this. Okay.
Amen. Give it to me
And
now.
yeah. And guess what? It ain't going to happen. All right. The
Yeah.
reason why God pulls you through the fire is a very hard process. You have to come out pure as gold. Just kind of think of what Job had to go through. God ain't going to be like, all right, sweep through. wipe through. There is a reason. There is a reason why we have to go through this. We have to lose ourself. We have to
Mm,
lose, ourself in order to just fully rely on Jesus and understanding that we are the righteousness of Christ. We wear that and we have to start believing in that, because the only way the enemy has a foothold is through our mind. And if he can get there, and people know, they can relate, once that one thought comes in, we take it as absolute truth because we think it. So it has to be true. But guess what? Our brain likes to lie to us and tell us the truth sometime. So we have to remember that it's going to be a process. We don't like that. We want it to be quick. But if you want to start making the right decisions for your life, if you want to start hearing God and really kind of start being sensitive to the Holy Spirit, we need to go through this process.
yeah, yeah. And that really resonates with me as a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I interact with those who believe in God and follow Jesus, and I interact with those who don't believe in God and aren't even trying to follow Jesus. And I think
Mm-hmm.
in both categories, you get people who are willing to accept that life is a process,
Mm-hmm.
and in both categories, you get people who are saying, "But how do I get that right now?" And
Mm-hmm.
I think for those who don't know God but are maybe seeking and are trying to discover
Mm-hmm.
Him, it's the safest thing is to know that there are there may be things that God wants to heal immediately in your life,
Mm-hmm.
but most often I see God working through a process and through people and through time,
Mm-hmm.
and He uses those methods. And for those who are following Jesus right now, and maybe you're hoping for that miracle, you're praying for that thing to go
Mm-hmm.
away. I would just encourage you as well that um, to to just look back and say, what can I control, and what I can't
Mm-hmm.
control, I've got to give to God,
Yeah.
because there is going to be that pain. But Nia,
Mm-hmm.
as we close out, I mean, you know so much. Like I love just asking you a question because it's just like, it's just like taking the bolt off the fire hydrant and just letting it go, try to drink out of it. Um, but just for you personally, I mean, I've known
Mhm,
you in stressful times in life and in
mhm,
celebratory times in life.
mhm,
But for you personally, what's been a moment in your life where you kind of had a big takeaway, something that you learned? Maybe it was the hard way or the easy way, but
mhm,
something that you've kind of experienced and learned when it comes to just kind of trying to stay calm in a stressed out
mhm.
world.
Yeah, I mean, when I really go through, hard seasons and I can't, figure it out for myself. Typically, I'm pretty good at trying and knowing myself a little bit better and understanding, okay, I need to do this. I pray a lot. I think, just the fact that knowing that God is beside me and I can just be here and just know he's with me and, focus on that. But there's sometimes I do need to reach out and, I'm just very blessed to have a very supportive family and friends that I can go to and help figure things out. I think it's what's really important to me is having spiritual mentors to go to, people like to get wise counsel, from people who, have been my age. I'm 28, I've never been 28 before, but I know people who have. And so they can help guide me through, making decisions and, helping me walk through a bad decision and just being like, all right, well, she's going to make it. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And then when she comes to me, then I'll be like, see, I kind of told you. And so just learning a little bit about that, the people who struggle with making decisions, if you make the wrong decision the first time, then you get awareness of like, all right, so that was the right decision. Sometimes it does take making the wrong decision to be like, all right, no, that was the correct way. So I
Mm,
think for me, just having family and friends and spiritual mentors, and also believing that I am a child of God, that I hold, the righteousness of Christ, that, I have blessings and spiritual gifts that I can tap into that are mine, that I don't have to work for anymore because of the fact of what Jesus did for me. And so I don't have to feel this oppression of like, oh, but I did do this the other day, I was mean. And it's like, no, I still have authority over that. And so I think over time, that wasn't like that before. Over time, I built that confidence. Over time, God really had to humble me and God really had to put stops in my life to say, you know what, Nia, you can't do this without me. And it was a hard realization. And I had to go through the fire basically to kind of, start shaking things off a little bit to understand that, you know, I'm going to be helping people who are going through some similar situations, and I need to be able to be strong enough to help guide them and to kind of and understand how I can relate to them. So I know for me, for sure, it's, you know, just understanding what Jesus destroyed at that cross, and, you know, and understanding who I am. And I am a daughter of the King, and I'm going to hold that dearly. So,
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. And it's so encouraging. First of all, I just got to say, as you mentioned your age, because you're 28 right now.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I mean, shout out to, there are young adults watching this going, man, what does it look like? I think, like, Nia, there are just so many people that wish they were as far along as you are. It's been incredible to watch you just get involved and succeed and apply yourself in so many different ways. And it's so
Yeah.
encouraging to me as well to listen to a woman that knows so much about mental health, and yet when it comes to actually managing her own mental health, continues to say, but the most important thing is, what is my relationship like with the God of the universe? Because, man, if there's a God out there and he made this whole thing and he said I can talk to him, then
Mm-hmm.
that's the most important thing
Mm,
out there at all. So,
thank you. Yeah.
Nia, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. To everybody watching there, I want to encourage you, go
Mm-hmm.
ahead, if you haven't subscribed, if you like this conversation, send a link to somebody that you think it would encourage. And if you're not already, you can follow us on YouTube, but you can also visit us at calvarynaperville.org. You can come to our services, or come and see us in person. And I mean, we're in a pandemic right now, so the whole in-person thing is, TBD. But we just want to encourage all of you, and hope this did it. So thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Nia. I will see
Yeah.
you later. And
Thanks, Peter.
YouTube, take care of yourself.
Bye, you guys. Thanks.